What's up everyone, my name is Gothix and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be reacting to something that was published in 1954, and the title of it is The Secret of Selling to the Negro. Now, in case you're wondering why I would ever choose to react to such a horrendous thing, I wanted to do this because I need to emphasize the importance of individuality. Look around you. Things are pretty chaotic, and one of the main factors that is causing all of this, godlessness being one, but the second is that people are so fixated on their own identity. But the ironic part about that is when you focus on something superficial like your skin color in this case, or your sexuality, your gender, when you focus on something like that, inevitably you're going to start thinking as a hive mind, as a giant machine. And the dangers to that is so severe I cannot even begin to explain it. But once you begin to think and behave as a collective, rest assured someone is going to be studying the collective. Someone's going to realize, black people, gay people, women, they all wear their identity on their sleeve and they all sort of move in unison, and we can kind of predict what they're going to do next. And this is exactly what this video is going to cover. So this is a marketing video, and it's, as I said, it's teaching people how to sell to the Negro. So I hope you enjoy this, and let me remind you guys, hit that like and subscribe button if you do, because YouTube does not like my videos. All right, let's get into this.
Hello. I'm Bob Trout.
Hi, Bob.
I've got a story here that I think is big.
How big?
Really big.
Oh.
Because it's bound to have a terrific impact on business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market. Millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend. That's right, I said $15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, to customers, and to salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market.
Okay, so really quickly, as I said, this was filmed back in 1954, and they didn't have social media back then. There were no smartphones, none of that. All they had was television, radio, newspaper, and word of mouth. So by simply observing, they were able to essentially build a consumer profile for black people. Imagine how easy it is today to predict how black Americans will react.
Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Breen.
You mean black people get married? What? I love seeing this. I love seeing this. People get upset when I say that there is a big problem with fatherlessness in the black community. There's a big problem with fathers being absent of any type of community, but for black people, it is a huge problem, a big problem, especially if you look at culture as a whole. We're sort of encouraging this this hookup culture, and I think that this is beautiful and this is so stable. But no, we don't get that. We got baby mama drama, one night stands, and swiping right.
They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never...
Look at that. Look at that. You see this? None of them are twerking. They're doing laundry. I know I'm going to get someone in the comments. I can twerk and do laundry. That's not the point. Twerking, you'll see none of that here.
Never enjoyed before. They're good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys pretty much the same way, too. But just the same, a lot of old doubts and opinions keep cropping up over and over again.
I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters. You can't keep track of them.
Yes, although a lot of people think that way, the truth is that 1 out of every 3 Negro families living in cities today owns its own home. That figure comes directly from the United States Bureau of Census.
Maybe so, but Negroes are poor credit risks.
Not more of a credit risk than any other group. Actually, the Negro homebuyer meets his payments faithfully, often more faithfully than other race groups in the same economic level.
Oh, man, I love this. Okay, a few things I want to point out. They're reenacting how a business owner wouldn't want to sell to the Negro because of outdated ideas. So, again, 1950s, we're talking about Jim Crow, overt racism, stuff like that. Which, by the way, you should check out my reaction video to the Uncle Tom 2 documentary, and you should go watch that because it covers a lot of misconceptions about the civil rights movement. Go check it out. But in any case, there was a lot of outdated ideas about black people back then. And I find it so interesting that despite all of these stereotypes that black people had to deal with, they were more financially stable, they had better credit, they had complete households for the most part. Yet today, when someone has a stereotype about a black person, the initial reaction is to complain instead of just proving yourself. Because if a stereotype is truly something that hurts your feelings, the best remedy for that, in my opinion, is to prove them wrong. And you prove them wrong not by screaming at the top of your lungs, "Stop stereotyping me, that's racist." You prove them wrong by doing exactly what these people were doing. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out about what he just said was the fact that back then, black people were more financially responsible. Today, by and large, okay, I know there's lots of successful black people, but if we're looking at the broader picture, black Americans, and you can look this up, spend less on credit maintenance and more on visible goods. So what this means is that black people, they spend less time building their credit, less time investing, less time opening up savings accounts. And instead, they spend more of their time buying fancy jewelry, expensive cars, constant trips to the beauty salon to get their fake nails and all that stuff. Unnecessary things compared to back then. So naturally, you're going to see a lot more poverty in the black community today if we have a culture that is encouraging that behavior. And you don't even have to go far. Just look at, again, if we're speaking at in terms of black culture, what is the dominant mainstream black culture that we see? All these rappers and hip hop artists that are flaunting their jewelry. There's one rapper with a diamond implant in the middle of his head. Why? Tell me why. What could have that money been used for? Sure, you can say, oh, it's my money, I can do what I want. But again, this does not negate the fact that black people back then were more financially responsible than they are today.
That's the information we got from people who ought to know, the National Association of Real Estate Boards.
Well, maybe, but I've always heard that Negroes buy shoddy, poor quality merchandise.
No, it's just the other way around. According to leading researchers, in proportion to population and income, Negroes buy more quality products than any other comparable United States group. You see, there are a lot of confused notions about the Negro customer. But when you dig right down and find out about them, they just don't hold water. Negroes own homes. They meet their payments faithfully. They buy good brands of merchandise. So why let a lot of old-fashioned ideas hurt profits? Take a look at the real facts.
Yeah, so back then, as I said, black people were more financially responsible. They paid their bills on time. They owned houses. It seems like I can't go a single day without hearing about the housing crisis or how black people are always living in poverty. What changed? The culture changed. This guy also mentioned that Negroes love to buy expensive high-end products. Now, if I had to guess, I think it's a combination of two things. One, it could be someone who worked hard to achieve something and naturally they want to reward themselves by buying something that they like. Listen, I do the same thing. But I also think, which I think is going to be the bigger issue here that I'm assuming they might touch on later, is the fact that some people, a lot of people, like purchasing things to flaunt. It becomes something to buy, not for them, but for everyone else. And you see it all the time, especially with social media, people taking photos of them in their car or them wearing jewelry. And it's like, who is this for? Is this for you or is this for all of your followers? But let's continue and see what he says.
Here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, some amazing facts and figures about this new market have been uncovered. For a first-hand report, we would like to take you directly to the United States Department of Commerce to hear this story from the Secretary of Commerce himself. Here is the Honorable Sinclair Weeks, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States.
In the Department of Commerce, we are constantly alert to trends that mean a healthier national economy, better business for the nation as a whole. Recently, we have been interested in a rising young market, one that represents a huge potential for goods and services. I'm referring to the new Negro market. The tremendous buying power of this group is backed, of course, by an increased earning power. The average Negro family's income is at a record high. In fact, since 1939, it has increased more than the average income of all other Americans.
I want you to really think about that for a second. In a time where people said racism was so bad, they were able to somehow end up building successful lives for themselves despite living in the midst of all that. I think that there is something to be said about the lack of resilience with this current generation, as well as how much more invested black people were back then to rid themselves of any of these outdated stereotypes. Back then, they led by example. If you're saying that black people can't afford something, black people live in poverty, then you know what? We're going to build our wealth. We're going to take up 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs if we have to pay for this mortgage. We're going to do it. You're saying that we can't figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Today, you know what the solution is? Complain about it. Government, where's our assistance? Let me go march on the streets with my fist up in the air. Let me pull out my phone and show everyone how oppressed I am. Not to say that some people don't need help, but the majority of people, especially living in America, can do it. You just have to have that grit and that resilience. And I find that more people back then had that resilience.
Just take a look at a few figures. An official Department of Commerce report shows that at least 1/3 of the Negroes living in cities earn from $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Today, the average Negro wage earner brings home a paycheck 4 times larger than the one he collected in 1939. As a whole, the Negro market has a total income of about $15 billion every year. And after taxes, Negro families still have many billions of dollars to spend. Here is a buying power that cannot help but have a tremendous effect on our national economy and on business prosperity in general. When these dollars are spent for a wide range of goods, services, and employment, business everywhere is bound to feel the impact.
This new buying power has resulted in a class Negro market, a profitable, above-average income group of consumers. For example, the nation's largest newspaper and magazine research organization, Daniel Starch and Staff, reports these significant figures. More than 51% of the readers of Ebony magazine have a record player in their homes. Almost 64% own a television set. and almost 78% enjoy the convenience of an electric refrigerator. It is also a fact, and this is from the magazine The Food Field Reporter, that Negroes spend almost $3 billion a year for food alone. Per capita, they buy more cosmetics, drugs, and toiletries than anyone else in the country. And their children are better educated, too, because since 1930, enrollment in Negro colleges is up 2,500%. But really, to recognize the importance of this class Negro market, we must realize that something has been happening economically in our country. People are on the move. The population is shifting. The makeup of metropolitan populations today is different than it was just a few short years ago. To give you a better idea of what we mean, we set up several cameras, candid cameras, in a number of shopping locations. Take a look at these shoppers.
Look how classy everyone was dressing. Look at that. Look at it. There's nothing else to say.
Notice what a large
As I look like this. All right, continue.
proportion of them are Negro. What's the reason? It's simply this. Negro families are moving into the cities where there are more job opportunities. Here they find occupations with more prestige and security, jobs that pay more money. As a result, Negro families today often make up the largest part of central city consumer prospects. A shoe store in Chicago's Loop, for example, reports that more than 50% of its customers are Negroes. In another case, a drugstore located at a transfer point in a non-Negro neighborhood finds that its Negro customers total 25%. The trend is plain. The new Negro families today are moving into more populated areas, to the cities, where there are more stores, more buying opportunities. Since 1940, in San Francisco alone, the Negro market has increased by 89%.
Wow.
In Chicago, by 81%. Houston, Texas, 45%. Philadelphia, 50%. The impact of this new buying force is so tremendous that actually in 14 major United States markets, a product cannot be number one without Negro support. A product must have the backing of this big new buying power to be a leader in the field. What do you have to sell? Chewing gum or cars? Toothpaste or transportation? Whatever it is, here are millions of prospects, and these prospects are everywhere. Negro customers can no longer be pigeonholed. They cannot be classified as prospects who trade only in certain stores, certain neighborhoods. Today, Negroes shop downtown. They shop in supermarkets. They shop in small neighborhood stores. They'll buy from anyone who wants to sell to them. But we all know that before you can sell to customers, you've got to get to know them. You must understand something about them. What do the Negro customers buy? Why do they buy? How do you sell to them? Let's find out. Let's hear the opinion of men who have spent a lifetime studying the buying habits of customers the world over. Here is what sales psychologists have to say about selling to the Negro.
The secret of selling to the Negro is expressed in one word. That word is recognition. Now, there's nothing unusual about that.
Hold up. Our current culture has a huge problem with narcissism. And I think that social media made it a million times worse. But back then, when there was no such thing, there was still this desire to buy goods if it meant that you would get recognition from it. It's like rappers today that buy all the bling bling because it's a sign of status. People waiting in line for days to pick up the new Jordans. Look what I can afford. I was first in line to get this.
People want to be recognized. They need recognition. That's basic in all of us. But perhaps because he's had so little of it, the Negro needs even more.
So really quickly, this guy said that everyone wants recognition. Yeah, it feels good to get recognition for something. Like when I wash the dishes and my husband says, "Hey babe, thanks for doing the dishes." I'm like, "Oh, Oh, you're welcome. But you shouldn't strive for recognition. If you're really passionate about what you're doing, like for example, if you're passionate about building your wealth and buying a home or pursuing a certain career, recognition from other people won't even be a thought. You know, it's even unhealthy when we look at it from the perspective of a celebrity. A celebrity knows that they're going to get recognition if they're in a movie or they're, a musician. They're going to get that recognition, but you even see it with them, how they're always trying to fish for compliments, like recognize me. I'm the first black female to win this. I'm the first black man to be casted in this role. It's unhealthy. Some people also figure out that they can get recognition by acting belligerent, by being very toxic. A lot of people do that. Like I said, just look at the rappers right now who are rapping about shooting one another. That's not good, but hey, you got your recognition and then you got your status. Here's my gold chain. Like it's backwards. All right, let's continue.
He needs to feel important and appreciated. This need is a very real and important one. It shows up even in many of the Negro's shopping habits.
Again, really, really quickly, the Negro needs to feel important. They want that recognition. I just want to interject here. This is also one of the reasons that I say that I don't seek recognition, and it's because I only seek the approval of the guy upstairs. Not literally the guy upstairs, but the guy above him, like in the sky. God, that's who I seek approval from. I don't seek approval of everybody else.
Anyone who sells or wants to sell to the Negro customer should know about some of these habits. 3 habits in particular play a big part in every sales transaction. To begin with, most Negroes buy by brand. They ask for products by name. They're quick to turn down off brands. Do you wonder why?
Status.
Well, listen to what this customer is thinking.
Status.
That last hat I bought, it just didn't hold up at all.
You see, for a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shoddy, second-class merchandise. So now he asks for name brands in order to make sure he gets his money's worth. Buying by brand, that's the first important Negro buying habit.
And the interesting thing about this is buying name brands does not guarantee that it's going to be good quality. But a lot of people think in this way, and a lot of people are willing to shell out thousands of dollars to buy a product just because it has a certain logo on it, not realizing that the product in general is just a bad product. But hey, if I can afford this expensive name brand, then it must be good. Ooh, I love this. All right, let's continue.
Now for the second. The Negro buys good quality merchandise. Symbols of quality and prestige are very important to the Negro customer. This woman, for example, is buying fine crystalware. But she is also buying the admiration and approval of her friends and relatives. Listen to her thoughts.
My, isn't it beautiful? I can hardly wait to show it to Sally and Joan.
It's a well-known fact that many Negro customers are influenced by the opinions of others.
Yo! Oh, many Negroes are influenced by the opinions of others. Yo, do I even need to elaborate on this? Seriously, just consider our current culture and how everyone is so obsessed about how other people perceive them. Why? And this is especially true with people that wear their identity on their sleeves. Black people, women, anyone a part of the LGBTQIA plus minus community. What you said was harmful. You're perpetuating a stereotype. That's a microaggression. You called me by the wrong pronoun. You misgendered me. Cultural appropriation. Imagine how much time one of these people that I'm talking about, imagine how much time is wasted complaining about how other people perceive them. Now imagine what they can do with that time. Imagine what this woman in this video could do with her money. Invest it, save it for something that she actually wants for herself instead of worrying about what her friends will say. Same template, different generation.
What their friends may think of a certain item often decides whether or not the sale is made. So remember, the Negro buys quality merchandise. That's the second important point. And here's the third thing to remember when selling to a Negro customer. When he specifically asks for one thing, don't try to sell him something else. Don't try to switch him at the point of sale. If you do, he'll probably react something like this.
Doesn't he think I've got the money to pay for it?
There's a reason for this reaction. Again, because he's had experience with cheap merchandise, the Negro resents being offered a substitute. He wants to be sold on quality, not price.
All right, so quality, name brand products, social status, and also don't sell them something else at the point of sale. So in this scenario, this black guy is thinking, well, why are they trying to sell me this other product? Do they think I can't afford it? Now, what's more common is you'll go into a store, you'll buy a product, and when you're checking out, they'll say, hey, would you like to add this extra thing to your order? And a lot of people fall for it because to them, they think that they're getting a deal. So now it's sort of reversed where it's not so much that the Negro is trying to prove to the store owner that they can afford it. Now, I think a lot of people assume that, oh, this is a better deal, I have to take it. So I think that that's very interesting. So let's continue and see what else he has to say.
These are the keys to selling the Negro customer. Another point. The Negro family does things together, as a group. The family works as a unit. It lives as a unit, and it buys as a unit.
What happened? Oh, man.
When you sell to one member, you many times sell to all. It's also true that many places of entertainment are still closed to the Negro. So he spends more of his money for the things that are available to him, often for items that are considered luxuries. Mm-hmm. Another trait of the Negro market is the fact that it is a pre-sold market. We know that the Negro buys by brand, and he buys the brands that he knows something about.
Yep.
Where does the Negro buyer get this information?
Magazines.
We know that Negro customers are turning more and more to the publications that are tailored specifically to their needs.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Huh? Huh? What? Individuality is so important. Any media outlet that caters to a superficial characteristic, skin color, gender, sexuality, is not to be trusted because they are enabling the hive mind. They're enabling this warped belief that people who share the same characteristic are pretty much drones of each other. They're just carbon copies of one another. That is racist in itself because black entertainment television, what is that? I am black. Entertain me. How? What am I going to consume as a Negro to be entertained? Let me tell you, I grew up listening to alternative rock, 80s hair metal. I don't understand how a network can say this type of music is for black people. What? Same thing with like Ebony magazine. I don't care if someone shares the same skin tone as me because skin color doesn't tell me if the other person has good morals, if that other person is an intellectual, if that other person shares the same hobbies as I do. It's so interesting. We're essentially creating more stereotypes as we keep progressing into the future. And it's because so many people are not only obsessed with getting recognition from outside sources, wanting so much acceptance, but they also become obsessed with themselves. It's very narcissistic. I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm a part of the LGBTQIA plus minus. Like, it's become this obsession. And then when you have media outlets like this that cater to a specific characteristic, you're enabling that stereotype. For example, if I see a black guy walking down the street and he has his pants sagging and he's got gold grills in his mouth and he's wearing a do-rag, I can assume something about that person. It's not nice for me to assume, but where did I get that stereotype from? Well, if I think of black entertainment, what do I see as the dominant form of entertainment? Rap and hip hop. Let's look at rap and hip hop. What do you see? This is the problem. When you create something like this, you're encouraging that narrative, and you have no right to complain that people are stereotyping you. Let's continue.
That give them the news and the information that they want to read about. Many leading businessmen and companies already know this. That's why so many of them are taking this direct, sure route of reaching the Negro customer. The vice president of advertising of the Drew & Watch Company, for example, says this.
In many important cities throughout the United States, Negroes are important customers of the credit jeweler. Therefore, it seemed that Ebony magazine would be a very important advertising medium for us. We would say it was very well received, and from our viewpoint, a very successful campaign.
From the Remington Rand Company comes this statement.
Our records show that advertising in Ebony has been effective in many ways. As all good advertising should, it has built a terrific amount of goodwill and has brought a volume of sales and sales inquiries.
A representative of the Alaga Syrup Company makes this statement.
Because of Alaga's regard for the influence of Ebony in the Negro market, advertising space was doubled. Alaga's long experience in selling to Negroes now takes the most direct route to its best customers, reaching Ebony's 2.5 million audience in every issue.
And here are the statements of still other business leaders.
Wow.
Yes, many business leaders are discovering the most direct and most efficient way of reaching the new Negro market. Look here at the results of the same advertisement in two different publications.
Wow.
Ebony and another general magazine.
General. Again, we'll use an example. Ebony magazine is a magazine made specifically for black people. What was Black Lives Matter? It was an organization or a movement that was made specifically for black people. What happened with Black Lives Matter? It turned out that they didn't really think Black Lives mattered. You know what mattered was their own bank accounts. That's what mattered. They knew if I just put black in the title and I put 3 black women as the face of this organization, we know that the Negro is going to bite. They're going to bite it. They're going to latch onto it. Same thing with this. If we just put a black face on this magazine and talk about black stuff, we know that they're going to buy it because there's this sense of trust. And this is something that I think people need to not be so comfortable with. It's very utopian to assume that just because you share the same characteristics with someone that you can trust them. The only person I trust is God. I will give other people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not going to fully trust someone, especially just because we share the same skin tone. It's like this one time I was working for a company and this random black guy came in, never met him a day in my life, but he goes, hey, can you hook me up, sister? No, what do you mean hook you up? I don't even know you. I've never spoken to you. I don't know who you are. Why would I hook you up? I can hook you up with an application. I think that we should be kind to one another and we should always try to help those who genuinely need the help, but we also need to have some level of prudence to know when someone is trying to take advantage of us or to understand what the most logical and reasonable course of action would be. If I were to just give someone a job just because they're black, that would mean that I'm blindly endorsing someone without knowing anything about them. And you see this all the time with politics.
You can see that proportionately, more men and women read the ad in Ebony than the one in the other magazine. And they did a better job of remembering it, too. A greater percentage of readers noted, associated, and remembered the ad in Ebony. But now, wait a minute. If the Negro market is so big and easy to reach, Why aren't more companies going out after it? Well, often because of the feeling that there's something entirely different, unusual about selling to the Negro. But is it really so different? What do salesmen say? The successful salesmen who do a good job of selling in Negro communities. How do you go about getting the order?
How do I get the order? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't do anything. Anything different, that is. I've been calling on these accounts long enough to know that the Negro just wants to be treated like everybody else. No matter who you're calling on, a little friendliness and courtesy help a lot. But naturally, anybody resents being patronized or talked down to.
Yeah?
So I usually call a man Mr. Brown, Mr. Smith, or Mr. whatever his name is, until he tells me to call him by his first name. And of course, I always stick to business. I stay away from talk about race or religion or politics. That goes for talk about Negro celebrities, too. You know, this business about what good prize fighters and singers the Negroes are. Who cares? When a guy's in business, no matter what color his skin is, he's interested in making a living, in making money. That's uppermost in his mind.
Hey, woke companies? Yeah, the virtue signaling companies that can't stop talking about representation, equity, diversity. That is how you kill your business. Unless, of course, your market, your core consumer base are people that are also fixated on those topics. If you want to make money, you have to play the game. This is a no-brainer. Politics, religion, these are topics that can get very divisive at times, and luckily for me, I talk about both on this channel. Winky face. However, in terms of business, the safest thing a company can do is to not take a specific social, political, or religious stance. When the Roe v. Wade got overturned, a lot of companies were taking a stance on that. You're taking away a woman's right to choose, without even considering how many of their own employees are pro-life. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. Without considering how many of their own employees are not okay with that organization. If a company has good products or a good service that I want, I'm going to do business with them. That's capitalism for you. But the second they take a stance, that opens up the opportunity for people to say, you know what, I don't agree with that. That goes against my morals, and maybe I don't want to support this company anymore. I don't want to fund what they believe in because it goes against what I believe in. This doesn't mean that you can't take a stance on a particular issue that you're passionate about, but you need to understand the risks. So for me as a content creator, I know that if I talk about a certain topic, my subscriber count is going to go like this, always fluctuating. And I don't have employees. I'm not selling a product. I'm making videos, and if someone tosses me $5 every now and then, hey, thank you. But it's very different from a business and dealing with employees that you depend on to keep that business running, as well as consumers that you depend on to keep your business afloat.
I guess maybe what I'm saying is that I try to help any way I can. Sometimes with displays or ad materials, or an idea once in a while. The important thing is that if it helps push sales for the dealer, it helps push them for me, too.
Handle the Negro account just like any of your others. Don't patronize. Stick to business. Get interested in the account. Pitch in and help any way you can. Sounds like...
The other thing that I forgot to mention, as he just said, the secret to selling to the Negro is to treat the Negro like everybody else. So, all you black-owned businesses, all you woman-owned businesses, do you not want to be treated like everybody else? You're actually selling yourself short when you have something like that, because that doesn't tell me anything about your products and your services that you provide. It tells me nothing. And I always tell this story about one time I went to a black-owned business against my better judgment. I went into this business that was advertised in this way, and I saw these beautiful brass earrings, $40, wore them for 3 days, and then they broke. Well, that's a black-owned business for you. If you want to be treated like everyone else, you should act like it.
like pretty good sales advice. That's the secret of selling the Negro. Well, how about it? What do you think of this new market? It can open new outlets for you and for everybody who sells goods or services. It's still possible to get in on the ground floor when this market is just beginning to grow and to expand. The facts and the figures that we see here are just a small sample of what they promise to be next year and the years after that. Yes, here are men and women with money to spend, and they spend it for exactly the same things as you and I and everyone else. They buy almost every type of product and service that you have to offer, and they can be reached like everyone else through publications that appeal to their interests and desires, that deliver the kind of loyal readership that can be proved both in surveys and in down-to-earth sales. Here is a ready-made market waiting to be asked to buy. Here are millions of customers for what you have to sell. Customers with $15 billion to spend.
Wow. Okay. That was excellent. And I hope that this reaction video helps provide a little bit more clarity into why I emphasize the importance of individuality. As I said, this was made in 1954, and they didn't have all of the technology and forms of communication that we have today, yet they were still able to predict the spending habits of Black Americans. Imagine what can be done today. People have to stop thinking as a collective and start thinking as an individual. And this also means stop obsessing about characteristics that don't mean anything. You being Black, you being a woman, you being gay means absolutely nothing to me. Life is hard. Everyone deals with some type of hardship and adversity throughout their life. What matters is, what are you going to do to overcome that? Are you going to complain, or are you going to overcome? That's the real question here. I hate this idea of getting into the oppression and victimization Olympics, because that's where we are right now. So this is what I recommend, and this goes for everyone, not just Black people. It's that in order to fight back against this sort of social engineering that's been taking place for generations, we need to first recognize that our identity doesn't matter in comparison to what's on our heart, what's in our mind. Our identity is useless, because the ironic thing about it is, the more you obsess about yourself, my Blackness, my gender, I'm a Black woman, the more you do that, the quicker you're inevitably going to be shoved into a box with other people who also obsess about that thing. And essentially it's saying that, hey, you worry about skin color and you worry about skin color. Now you guys are friends. You all share the same thoughts. You all hold the same beliefs. You all vote the same way. You all buy the same things. So stop obsessing about your identity. It's dangerous. Don't do that. And I would also say, stop caring about how other people perceive you. It is wildly unhealthy to obsess about recognition and acceptance and clout and compliments. Why? And then also, it's unhealthy to obsess about what other people say about you. Unless, of course, it's valid criticism. And I think most people can tell the difference when someone is approaching you with a genuine concern and they want to see you improve, they want to see you be successful, versus someone that's just being a jerk. And in that case, where someone's just being a jerk, this is what I would recommend. Proverbs 12:16, fools show their annoyance at once, but the prudent overlook an insult. Remember earlier we talked about prudence and why it's necessary, because it allows us to be careful and wise and basically exercise common sense to reason about what we're supposed to do. And If we have prudence, we know that obsessing about the mean things people say to us is a waste of time. Prudence would tell us to use that time towards improving our own lives, working towards the goals that we want to achieve instead of worrying about something like that. Same thing goes for spending all of your money on things to have social status. Prudence tells us that's a waste of time, that is bad with your money, stop doing that. But anyway, that sums up everything I wanted to say. So if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please do me a solid and hit that like and subscribe button. And of course, if you have a suggestion for a future video or topic you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. My name is Gothix, and I will see you next time. Bye! Thanks for watching. If you want to keep my grift going, consider picking up some official merch by visiting nosisnos.com/Gothix or joining my locals community at gothix.locals.com for more content. As always, you can help amplify my message by giving this video a thumbs up and by sharing it online with your friends. Until next time. Do.